everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
Today's question comes from Russian Dragon, who says, "Hi, Captain Vince. If you could go back to college for a free degree," I guess he's assuming that we wouldn't go back to college unless it was free, "for a free degree unrelated to the one you currently have, what degree would you get?" This is a really cool question. I know this is kind of an unusual thing for us to tackle in like a whole episode, but I thought it might be kind of an interesting thing to discuss and just get people kind of thinking about, and maybe the broader topic here, Vince, is other places your life might have gone, or what you might do for a second career. I think it's important sometimes to be reminded that just because your life's going in a certain direction right now, or you have a particular career path, or even like this question is alluding to, you have the one degree where you went for a particular field or craft or something, doesn't mean that there might not still be plenty of time left to try something else down the road.
That's true. I suppose there's one that's already at the forefront of my mind, but it does have something to do with my second degree.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, and I don't know that it's going to be entirely possible to answer this question exactly straight without cheating a little bit, but we shall do our level best, and we might throw out 2 or 3 different things. But like I said, this would be fun. Also, we'll give you ours, and then we'd love to see some of yours as well. Not assuming that everybody watching has a college degree, but the idea of even if we're not talking degrees, just like other careers you might have taken, or other things you might like to learn how to do down the road. Go ahead, Vince.
I suppose if somebody was going to give me a free degree, I'd probably get a doctorate in physical therapy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, that type of thing. But, the first thing that popped in my mind, because I assumed you were asking about, like, the English degree thing.
Yeah.
I would probably go for anthropology.
Really?
Yeah, and study different cultures, kind of get a little bit more into the mind of the human beastie, and or creature, or whatever they like to call it. I like the word beastie, it's fun. So I'd go with anthropology. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned getting in the minds of things, because when I first went to college, I was very much between 2 fields, and thinking about like what I do now and everything.
I breathed it in.
Aren't you just drinking water?
Yep. Not Aquaman. Or Namor.
I thought you had gills. You don't have gills? Okay.
I might be looking a little green around the gills.
Anyway, it's weird thinking about what I do now and how and how into story and narrative and stuff I am, and I've always been very interested in that, but I very nearly went into psychology. And that's probably what I would do if I had my druthers. Now, again, this is like if you could go for free and you didn't have to think about it. I do want to go back to school. Oh yeah, real bad. It's a thing I've thought about for a long time. I want to go back for my master's, and at this point, I don't know what I would get it in necessarily. I've thought about a number of different things, but
yeah, I mean, you could get a master's in roughly anything once you have a bachelor's.
Once you have a bachelor's, yeah,
as long as the prereqs are, taken care of.
Yeah, and as long as you can get the right signatures.
Yeah.
But yeah, because most schools you have to have letters of recommendation and stuff. But I'm still connected on. It's really nice the world we live in now. I don't know how you would have done this 30 years ago. I'm connected with with a lot of my old professors, especially in my field. In my writing and English professors and stuff. On Facebook, it's like. Back in the day, you'd have to like call up the school and just hope people were still around and you could find them. You just think about that. I mean, I talk about this all the time, but like how much we take technology and convenience for granted.
Oh, I just thought of another degree. I was this close to getting a degree in teaching for drama.
Really?
I was that close. I mean, I was going for an English degree, and then I decided to just continue on that English degree path, even though I had a theater scholarship for a while. So, and then I went to Emporia State, and things seemed to be going well for me there. My English degree just got so work intensive that I dropped the whole drama thing together, and like the director of the drama department out there, his jaw just dropped. Like, we were this close to offering you one of the major parts in the play, and you just walked away? And I was like, Sorry, gotta go. Bye.
See, if his next word had been scholarship, you probably would have changed your mind entirely.
Yeah, no. I was not going to receive money.
Yeah.
And I found that out later. I guess now I'm just talking about this. I found that out later that I was going to get one of the major parts in the play because the people who got called back for that specific callback was for like one of the few major parts in the play. And it was Annie, Get Your Gun, I think. And I said, all right, feel like an ass. Because I did not have the time to devote to it. So I kept with the improv thing, though. That was fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. With your psych degree, would you become a psychologist, or would you teach psychology, or would you continue to teach something else?
No, I wanted to be a therapist.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to open up my own practice. That was the thing I very much considered doing. I have always wanted to teach. That's a thing that I still would like to do, and I didn't go on for a number of reasons. I didn't go down the teaching path, mostly because some of it's a personal philosophy thing. I don't want to go to school and learn how to teach. I want to go to school and learn the thing that I would teach people. You know what I mean? I've always had just fundamental issues with that notion, and like I understand why that's a career path, and I'm not completely down on it. It's just I want to do at least get the degree in the thing I wanted to learn how to do first, and then I don't know, maybe down the road I would go back and do, you know what I mean? So like, I guess I could see getting like a teaching master's degree, but that sounds like really tedious to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I have a passion for teaching, but I have a passion for teaching my field. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how passionate I would be for having to deal with those classes, you know what I mean? And like what I did when I went to school is I didn't go to school for, I've said this before, but I didn't go to school for a degree. I went to school, for just a piece of paper, hoping that I would get a job. I went to school to learn how to do a thing, and so I took every single possible writing class I could. I think the only thing I didn't take was creative nonfiction in technical writing, but I took everything else, and I am pretty sure that I had to have had the record for most hours taking creative writing classes. You only need, especially if you count my JUCO credits, which didn't transfer, but most people wouldn't have done that. I didn't care. I just wanted the experience, and so I got to teach. I got to learn under a lot of different professors. I had different kinds of mentors, and so I don't know. I had a really good experience with that, and if I went to school again and it was like for teaching, I think it would be a very different kind of experience. But I don't know if I want to go. The thing is, I could have gone immediately when I finished up my undergrad for a master's in creative writing, but everybody, like all of my professors, told me not to, because they said if you do it here, it's going to be the same thing. You've already done it. They're like because they had just started their program. They were like, it's an okay program, but like it's better if you're getting a master's in it after having gotten a bachelor's in something else. They were like, you're not really going to learn anything. You've done it already. Now that I'm like 6-7 years removed, Vince, I kind of feel like I could go back and it would feel like a refresher. Yeah. So I have considered doing that, but I don't know if it would be worth the money.
Well, I mean, because to some extent, what was it? I talked to a guy at one point that said a creative writing master's is a lot like independent study. You just do your own thing. And they say, well, you have a certain number of goals that you have to reach, and check back in with us in a couple months. And when I found that out, I was like, well, then why are you paying them so that you can write your own stuff? And then they say, well, good job, you finished it.
You know what, though? A lot of master's programs are that way.
That's just crazy to me.
But the nice thing is it would help you build a sense of discipline.
That's true.
Because it's like okay, we took you out of the classroom. You're working without a net. You've got this long to complete this project. You've got a professor who's at your disposal if you need them, but like you have to get this thing done, in a certain amount of time. So I hear what you're saying. It's weird to spend that much money for somebody to basically hand you a list of instructions and say go write a paper, or go write a usually with a creative writing master's there would be there'd be a thesis, and a thesis would be like a novel or a series of short stories or something like that. So it'd be different than it would be for some other kind of liberal arts thing or humanities thing, because because for most things you do a research project, and for that I would imagine, if memory serves, at least with that program, it was you go write fiction.
Yeah, which apparently that's true of a lot of places. Like I don't know about like the premier, or like I don't know what Iowa's like, but there's a lot of places that at least the ones that are in the district, for whatever you want to call it, the region, I guess. Yeah, region. They all kind of have the same philosophy. Here, go forth and write, be productive, and then we will get back together at the end of the semester.
Yeah, you're basically paying for it to be official.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like saying, I was going to do this work anyway, here's enough money to get me the next step.
But the question you got to, and I'm not taking up for how much a lot of these things cost. I'm not, I mean, like, it has gotten outrageous. But on the flip side of this, Vince, is... But then, if it wasn't official, if you weren't getting the document, if you didn't feel like you had to do it because you were paying money to do it, would you actually get the work done? Yeah, that's the question. And some of us would, and some of us wouldn't. And also, might you do your best work this way?
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I think that's probably true of me, but
like, are you saying it's not worth it unless you're sitting in a classroom?
I guess what I'm saying is that it's not worth paying it if you have the self-discipline to do it anyway. So, I mean, because you're still going to have an end result. You're still going to have a product. And just because now
but it's not necessarily all about the product. When you have that master's degree, it's a lot easier to get work if you want to, like, teach the college level at that and stuff like that. Because keep in mind that you don't need a teaching degree to teach college.
Right.
You need a teaching degree to teach public school, to teach elementary, high school, secondary. But what you need to teach English is a master's in English.
Yeah.
And some luck, and usually especially if you're trying to teach it anything like a major university. You know what you need to teach creative writing? To be very published.
Yeah, you don't really need a degree, but it helps getting published.
I mean, you probably got to have at least a bachelor's, but you could have a master's. Heck, you could have a doctorate, but if you're not published enough, although if you got a doctorate, you probably got published.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of part of it?
Generally, yeah. I think so. But anyway, we're not actually talking about the question anymore, because now we're talking about the degrees we have. But
that's a good point. I mean, for me, in my mind, anthropology is...
Now it's time for Pat Out the Podcast!
We should make that, Pat Out the... We'll talk about, like, fluffy things.
Sounds like the easiest game show ever.
Pat Out the...
Yeah.
It's like a 6-hour show where people just kind of put, like, cotton into things.
Yeah, we don't allow politicians because they're professionals at that. like it's called Patting Out, not Filibuster the Podcast.
I've been trying to fill this Buster Bunny with a bunch of fabric and stuff. But anthropology, I guess, to me is the thing that's kind of...
I was surprised you said that.
I mean, I've always kind of considered... if I had to go back and do something different, I would not have chosen anthropology.
Oh, really?
Because I had to learn through my English degree more about anthropology. And the reason is that if you learn something about the human creature in different kinds of environments, then you learn more about how we as an animal or as a social being react. So... And then you also, just by virtue of studying how people are in their cultural habitats, by virtue of studying that, you see what kind of things or what kind of scenarios yield what kind of people.
Yeah.
So in my mind, if I was going to go for a master's, it wasn't going to be for writing, it was going to be for anthropology, because in my mind, that's kind of the next step. Now we've taught you how to construct a story through the creative writing degree. Now we've taught you what the classics and basics are through your English part of the creative writing degree. So now
what do you know about the human beings you'd be writing about? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So, I just kind of thought that.
No, that's great. I mean, and it's interesting that the two things that the thing that each of us considered. It's funny that we've never had this conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known you for almost a decade. We've never had this conversation.
I don't think I've ever said the word anthropology to you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I don't know that I've probably said the word psychology to you, but
That's true.
But I don't know that I've ever even told you about that.
Yes, you have.
Oh, have I? Okay, well,
briefly.
I talk a lot. But yeah, it's interesting that that the thing each of us almost went into or considered going into, it kind of related.
Mm-hmm. a lot of people.
Behavioral studies and stuff, man.
Incidentally, for all of you out there who are considering getting English degrees, the big thing about English degrees and not necessarily creative writing degrees is that they teach you how to learn, which is what public school is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, so English degrees really teach you how to take information and redirect it. That's great. When you get out of school, people are going to try to tell you to go to law school. Or whatever.
You know what else they do? They teach you basic grammar, whether you know it or not.
Yep.
They wouldn't let me test out of that.
Really?
I couldn't believe it. When I was at JUCO. So I went to a junior college because I got a free ride there for 2 years because my stepdad worked there. So he was going to shave almost half my tuition off. So I went there to get my course, and then I was going to transfer to KU after that. And they just happened to have a really good creative writing program there, but nothing transferred. But I happened to, but I went ahead and tried it out, and I learned a whole lot about creative writing there before I even got to get into my major, which was awesome. And I'm still good friends with the professor I had there, and I'm actually going to see him in a couple weeks. Vince, he's asked me to come speak to his creative writing group, and he's got a lot of people that want to write genre fiction there. So he's asked me to come speak about writing genre fiction and publishing and all that stuff. So it's gonna be quite a trip going back there and talking about writing like I'm an authority or something. It's fast with him in the room. Like, that's going to be a little nerve-wracking because he was my first mentor. I wrote my novel. The first several chapters of my novel were an assignment for his class. Like, he was the first person that ever read it. And he read it and helped me with it all the way through the process. Like, he continued reading it after I left the school.
That's cool.
It's gonna be quite a trip going back there.
You should go in there and tell them that the eagle flew off in the distance.
And the eagle flew.
Is that a different guy?
Do you mind if I know that you had that experience?
What?
I thought you read a story that had eagle flew off in the distance.
Oh no, I did, but yeah. I mean, you had a teacher that used that as an example.
Oh, maybe that was it. I thought it was Denoyer.
Yeah.
KU.
Yeah, that's what
I thought it was Denoyer. Yeah, but anyway, I'm sorry.
I never met Denoyer.
Do you mind if I go off the rails for just 1 second?
Go right ahead.
Because you mentioned that, and there was a thing that I meant to tell you about. I'll just do this on camera. There was a thing, Vince, that I meant to tell you about when I was working on my rewind for Cabin in the Woods. Because I thought of you, and I thought of that thing while I was watching Cabin in the Woods, because there's this great moment. You remember that movie? Mm-hmm. There's this great moment where they set up the invisible grid, that the big force field grid around the mountain. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
There's an eagle, and it flies up at the force field, and it gets zapped, and it dies. And I thought that was the best thing ever. And I wrote, I mean, this is a movie about people. The
eagle expired in the distance.
This is a movie about people who are trapped and don't know it, and think that they're free, but they're not, and they're actually pawns in an elaborate game. And I actually wrote about this in my rewind, and I meant to mention that eagle flew off in the distance thing, and I forgot to, but I said in the rewind, I said, and it's the first time I've ever seen an eagle represent the opposite of freedom. Like, that's the best thing ever.
That's genius.
It's kind of the antithesis to the ridiculous BS-ness of the example that we were always making fun of. The eagle. If you don't know about this, Vince read a short story at one point where did you actually read it and then I heard about it? Was that what it was?
At this point, I'm not sure if it's a movie or a short story, but it ended with the eagle flying off in the distance.
The way I remembered it, and like it's almost folklore at this point. The way I remember it was like a short story, and when you got to the end of it, it wasn't just that the eagle flew off into the distance. It was that it spelled it out to the point of saying, and the eagle flew off in the distance, and the eagle represented freedom.
Yes. I remember this now.
Oh my god, that's my favorite thing ever. So anyway, well, real quick, would you ever consider going back to school, free or otherwise, to learn how to do something else, or to get yourself started going at some of the? I mean, you just got finished like a year or two ago.
Yeah, I think I would
finishing what you're doing now.
I think one, I would have to be out of debt from having been in school, and
yeah.
And two, I would have to be in a place in life where supporting myself during school would be super easy. Like
it's like opening a business, right? Like you want to be able to live without having to go to work for a while.
Yeah, That's the thing that would make me do it. I don't think I could make it through. Well, I could make it through. I just don't think I would have the I want to continue to live my life and go back to school thing. It would be more like, well, I guess here we go again.
Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I feel like you and I are a little bit different in that if I could do this, if I could have my druthers, I would totally be a professional student. I'd go all the time.
Fair enough.
I want to go back so bad. And at this point, like I said earlier, I would about go back for creative writing again, just for the refresher, and just to live the writing life, you know. And when I say writing life, I mean you write 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and I mean like I just would love to get to live that way. There'd be nothing stopping me from doing it now, except you guys wouldn't get videos, or everything you guys would get would be just me reading short stories to you. But like the kind of writing that I want to do, that I am back to now. By the way, I'm writing a novel again, but I mean like it's in really short increments every day, and I carve out a little bit of time to do it, but.
Fair enough.
I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm writing it.
I mean that's kind of like the guts of writing anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is. You don't know as you're doing it a lot of the time, I think.
I just had a thought that's barely related. So here's something that I want everybody to know. This is pretentious.
The
Vince
more
Past.
you know. Oh.
Vince Cast. So the more you need to know if you're going to school to learn how to write a screenplay. If you're going to school for film, they don't teach you to write. They teach you to write a screenplay. They teach you how to format. They teach you the structure of it.
The basic 3-act formula, and yeah.
So they teach you all that stuff, which is stuff you need to know to do it. So kudos to you guys for doing it.
But it's technical. It's not.
Yeah, it's all
creative,
technical.
yeah.
And so I'll go to these things.
You do get it in English. You can get screenwriting in English side. I took that, but it was so weird because when we were at KU, there were 2 screenwriting classes, and one was with the film department, and one was with the English department. The one in the English department, you actually wrote a screenplay, and I heard that the one in the screenwriting department, you didn't actually write anything.
I was in the one in the screenwriting department.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I had seen some of the movies of the guy that ran that class.
Right.
And you know what?
And you didn't write anything.
I did write some stuff.
Oh, you did? Oh, see, I heard that you didn't have to write a movie in that.
You were required to write a first act or more. And that's the thing, though.
But in a whole semester.
It's like straight up beginning screenwriting. It's designed for people who have never taken a writing class before.
Oh.
And that's kind of the thing.
And by the time you got there, you'd already had 3 semesters of playwriting. Like, that was toward the tail end, was it not?
Yeah. And, it's like, that's great. It's fine. The one thing that they did in that class that I thought was like a big boon. A big boon for... I'm sorry.
Those are antonyms.
Mr. Wilmot, I'm sorry. One of the things that I liked a lot about that class is that it kind of took a lot of the BS aside and said, like, if you're an English major and you take this class, this is how you write a screenplay. This is how you write something that is, sellable. Because I feel like a lot of the time you get to these hippy-dippy, flowery English writing classes, and they're like, you go with what you feel. And then you have this whole thing that's based on what the classics are rather than how you write a modern novel. And those two things are very different. Uh-huh. So you get into the screenwriting class over there at KU, and you get a lot of really good information. He teaches you how to write a screenplay. It's exactly what the class says it is. The people in the class don't necessarily know how to write. They know how to shoot. You know what I mean? And that's the difference between a film degree and a creative writing degree. You need both.
Yeah.
You can't. If you're going to be a filmmaker, you need both.
I'm glad you brought up film because that would have been my other answer. Mm-hmm. And I have considered going back for that as well, but have been told by a lot of people that have done it that I don't really need it. For what? Because I would pretty much go to film school to learn how to do what I do right now better.
Yeah.
And what I'm told by folks like Tim Lyons who have gone through film school, and this is nothing against film school at all, but like Tim says, I learned a lot of some good things there, but you learn a lot more just doing it. He says just do it. I mean, I think there are a lot of there are a lot of careers that if you want to try to get them, you should probably, go get an undergrad in film school. I'm not sure for me what the point of a master's would be at this point. Like at one point I really was seriously considering it, and at this point I'd probably go back to English or maybe something else a little more off the beaten path.
I feel like I would be more likely to just go take some classes rather than go back for a degree.
Actually get a degree. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I don't need another piece of paper.
Learn the basics of some things.
So, I mean, yeah, sure. I'd go back and learn the technical parts of it. I'd go back through Wilmot's class a couple more times. I mean, because I found it beneficial. But, you know what? Let me take that back. I would go for, like, independent study under Wilmot because I think he's a good teacher.
Oh, yeah, but I think at this point, I know... Well, first of all, I'm still in this bizarre place where I'm somewhere between a writer and a filmmaker, and I don't even like using that word to describe myself because I kind of landed into the video making thing, and what I've learned how to do has been out of necessity. And so, like, I learned how to do a lot of stuff when I did Spawn Year, but I'm doing the documentary, but I still wouldn't consider myself a filmmaker. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to be a filmmaker before a writer, really. But I like knowing how to do some of that stuff.
Well, I mean, and to some extent, a filmmaker is like a writer with more real-life, practical know-how of how to make things look real. You know what I mean?
Well, you're basically just working in a different medium, right?
And, yeah, I mean, you pick up a different kind of paintbrush. But
I don't want to belittle the folks that have spent a lot of years going and learning how to do that, because there's a bunch of stuff I still don't know how to do. You know what I mean? Like I'm not... And there's a lot of tech stuff that I just don't know anything about, like... I'm such a novice when it comes to a lot of that stuff. I think I would make a decent director as long as the people I was working with were competent, because I can delegate. But it would basically just be like, okay, you're the you're the director of photography. You tell me what shots look good. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you what story I want to tell, and you can tell me how to give me the stylistic look I'm going for.
I mean, yeah, and depending on what set you're on, the director is kind of the dictator who says everything will be this way, or kind of the glorified babysitter who says, "Come on, guys, let's put this thing together."
Oh, I want to be the first one, Vince.
The dictator.
Yes.
I know everything. Do what I say.
Well, no.
That's what I meant. As opposed to, I need your help, figure this out for me.
No, I just mean I like to be able to boss people around. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like I need to be a little more clear about, because I do think a film degree is worthwhile for filmmakers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
it does not teach you how to write creatively.
Yes, yeah. No, I think I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's really important. And if you're wondering why we're talking so heavily about writing, it's our field, and it's I mean Vince has another field now and he's kind of fallen out of it, but he still knows a lot of stuff, and it's still something that's you care about.
I can talk about mechanics and characterization. I can also talk to you about how the quad works.
I can't do that. But we have a lot of viewers that have been more and more lately asking us, when we're going to get back to talking about writing again, and it's it's a thing I miss talking about, so. This is kind of another excuse to get to do that a little bit. Psychology is still a thing that definitely interests me. I could see that as like a second career, but I still think I'd rather teach.
I would not.
And I've been thinking about trying to get in a direction where I can go to a college and start teaching. I would really like to do that.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to get a master's in it, I mean, a master's in English I think would be beneficial to you, just so that you could be over that hump.
And I'd like to get more published.
Yeah.
Which I think if I just put my mind to it is a thing I could probably do.
I do not think I could teach. I mean, I think I could teach. And I think I could teach like drama or something.
No, I think so too.
But reading crappy papers, I would...
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
The first time I saw the word of instead of have, I would just like...
And it's so common now. And it's... No disrespect to anyone, but Vince, like, collectively, just the country and maybe even the world at large, is so much worse at grammar and punctuation and writing in general than we were when we were in school 10 years ago. It's gotta be. I mean, you just look at everything that you see when you're reading people writing things on the internet all the time, and I know that it hurts my ability to spell. Just reading it. I can't imagine where people that it doesn't already come naturally to them, or they weren't taught it properly in the first place. We are not, I don't mean to soapbox, we are not compensating enough for that, I don't think.
I mean, I guess maybe I should put the addendum in. I wouldn't be that way if I were teaching high school or middle school.
Yeah, but you go to college and you expect a particular standard out the gate when people are there. We didn't see it when we were there in the first place. I mean, like, you remember all the crappy short stories we had to read?
Yeah.
And see, I was gonna say like as soon as you said crappy papers, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if I would want to go teach creative writing, because then I got to read all those terrible stories again. But we got used to it, didn't we? Like,
yeah. And what was it?
If I had to read one more alcoholic road trip story, Vince,
Yep. Or the woe is me, at a funeral or in a hospital, or I'm at a high school. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
You know what you remember what the 3 big don'ts were, right?
One was a funeral, one was a hospital. And
one was on your phone, and 10 years later, think about it. I mean, like, how do you even get away from it now?
Yep.
But like, don't have long drawn out conversations with 2 people on a phone. Although I fight that one a little bit these days, because I've seen some really effective text conversations in TV shows and films.
Yeah.
But I think in even in prose you can potentially, but you've got to make it dramatic, and you've got to make sure that all that dialogue is actually revealing something, and that can be sort of tough, because how much of that is, often small talk. But I guess it depends on the situation.
Yeah,
I don't know. The phone thing I fight a little bit now, but that was one professor's opinion. But
I'm okay with phone conversations, as long as you're not just listening to one guy sort of like a half-assed recant what somebody says over the phone, like. Feel forgiven language, like somebody who says.
You mean recall or
recount?
Recount.
Yeah.
There you go. Recount. Yeah.
Halfway decant.
Recant is what Martin Luther refused to do, Vince.
I was like, what did I say? I don't know. I'm Johnny Bravo over here.
I'm like, no, Vince, that would be actually a really interesting phone conversation. I will not recant.
I will not recount. But how will I know what he said? So, I hate it when I'm watching a movie and somebody's like, no, I did not say blah, blah, blah.
Imagine if Roots had been a phone conversation. Kunta Kinte! Sorry.
And they're like sending dirty texts, like, whoosh.
Sorry, that was in poor taste. We apologize. This is a middle picture. Anyway. Sorry. But we apologize. For everybody that's going to demand an apology after this, we already apologize.
They're sending your phone viruses instead of whips. So,
look, I was trying to get us out of this hole we dug ourselves in, man. So anyway, let's finish up, shall we?
Yeah, I guess anthropology.
Yeah, psychology. And maybe film.
I would take classes in film. I wouldn't go for a degree.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'd love to know what you would consider for a second career or a second degree. It's always interesting to see what people are doing and the direction they might have gone. My wife was. It's interesting how many of us have these like 2 very disparate paths. And I thought that question was really interesting, because I was like, I guess a lot of people have this. I guess it's not just me that you would think. You had one. Maybe you had another one that you almost did. Sarah is an architect. And she went to school for architecture, but she very nearly went for linguistics.
Really?
Yeah, and it was basically a coin flip. I mean, she loved both equally and had a really tough time deciding which one she wanted to go for. So she basically decided, okay, I'm going to go for architecture. And
regardless, it's structural, right?
Yeah, but that's a really good point. But if I don't like it after a couple semesters, I'll flip over to linguistics. But she never did. She went all the way.
And Sarah was amazing. Was supposed to be an art major?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe you did tell me that. I forgot. Okay. But Sarah was amazing, because she was the only architecture student I ever knew who never pulled an all-nighter.
It's because she's dang smart.
And fast when it comes to that stuff. Oh my God, she's quick. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we'll see you again next week on Geeks Not Nerds. If there is a topic you'd like us to talk about in a future video, would you send me a personal message on Geekvolution, and I'd love to take a look at it. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local college. No, to support your local comic book store.
We'll see you next time.